Let's talk about cynicism. You know that feeling, right? That nagging sense in the back of your mind that deep down, everyone's just out for themselves. It's a very modern problem, but what if the answer was ancient? Today, we're diving into a blueprint, one hidden in the book of Isaiah, that offers a totally radical alternative to how we see the world, and maybe even ourselves. Let's get into it. It really all starts with this question. And when I say faith, I don't just mean religious faith. It could be faith in humanity, in progress, in an institution. Why does it feel so brittle these days, so easy to lose? Why does it seem like one bad headline, one personal disappointment, is enough to shatter it all?
And this quote from our source material just nails it, doesn't it? If your belief system is built only on abstract ideas or philosophical arguments, well, you're building a house on a frozen lake. It might look solid, but the second the cultural weather changes, the ice starts to crack, and that whole structure you built is going down.
So let's stay with that image. Let's take a closer look at that house on the ice. In this first part, we're going to explore why so much of modern belief is so fragile and how cynicism just thrives in those cracks.
Think about it. Our culture is all about fast initiation. We jump into new ideas, new identities, new movements super quickly. But that also leads to a fragile faith. It's a mile wide and an inch deep. And cynicism, well, it loves to rush into that kind of vacuum, offering a really simple but really bleak explanation for everything. That we're all just biological machines, driven by nothing more than the cold math of survival.
And if cynicism had a creed, this would be it. First, it says human nature isn't special. It's just biology, plain and simple. Second, every single action, no matter how nice it looks on the surface, is really just about self-interest. And third, in a world of predators and prey, you better make sure you're the predator, because it's always better to be the criminal than the victim. It's a dark way to see the world.
But what if there's another way to build? What if we could get off that frozen lake and onto solid ground? This next section is all about that alternative, moving from a God of abstract ideas to a God who actually shows up in history.
This slide really lays out the two options. On one side, you've got the God of the philosophers, a perfect concept, a neat intellectual proposition. That's your house on the ice. But on the other side, you have the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a God who gets involved, who acts in the real world, a God known not through arguments, but through actual deeds. That's an anchor. That's solid ground that can hold fast against the storms of cynicism.
And the main source for this historical anchor? The book of Isaiah. You know, it's the most quoted Old Testament book in the New Testament for a reason. Some people even call it the fifth gospel because it lays out this incredibly clear blueprint, a story, of what God is actually doing in history.
And that blueprint, well, it leads us to the most radical idea of all. It's a totally new kind of hero, a whole new design for humanity itself. It's the design of the suffering servant.
The best way to get your head around this is to think of these parts of Isaiah as a movie trailer. Imagine, for centuries, this trailer is playing, showing these incredible scenes of a hero who's coming, a hero who is going to turn the world's entire value system completely upside down. And like any good trailer, it gives you the plot points. Scene 1, you see the hero's calling. Scene 2, you see the intense struggle he's going to face. Scene 3, you see his total and apparent defeat. I mean, he looks like just another victim. But then, the trailer hits you with the shocking final act, his ultimate vindication, which reveals that his suffering had a mind-blowing purpose all along.
The engine that drives this entire story is this concept right here, vicarious suffering. It's a fancy-sounding term for a really simple but powerful idea. It means choosing to step in and take the hit for someone else, absorbing the consequences that they deserved on purpose.
And Isaiah 53 just spells it out in the most raw, visceral way possible. This isn't just random, tragic suffering. It's specific. He was pierced for our sins, crushed for our iniquity. The pain he goes through is directly linked to healing somebody else. So here it is, maybe the most crucial point of this whole thing. In Isaiah's vision, this suffering isn't a bug, it's a feature. It is not a tragedy, it's the system. It's a deliberate design. The Hebrew word used is a sham, which means a reparation offering. It's a purposeful act, a payment made specifically to make things right. Okay, so the trailer has played, the design has been revealed, and now in this next section, the protagonist finally walks on screen. We're going to see how this ancient blueprint was understood to have been fulfilled, creating a brand new kind of hero for all of humanity. When the early Christians met Jesus of Nazareth, it was like the hero from Isaiah's trailer had just walked off the page and onto the stage of history. For them, there was no question.
They identified him as the suffering servant, the new Adam who comes to succeed where the first one failed, not by grabbing for power, but by embracing this deliberate design of sacrifice.
And this slide just brilliantly shows the two paths, the two designs. The world's path, the cynic's path, is might is right. It's all about self-assertion, being the predator. But the servant's path is a complete 180. It's about vicarious sacrifice, about healing others. It's about acting not as a predator, but as a high priest who stands in the gap for others.
And this brings us right back to where we started. By giving us a real, historical person who actually lived out this design, this model moves our faith off that frozen lake of flimsy ideas and plants it on the solid ground of a God who acts in history, a God who, just as Isaiah promised, would one day swallow up death forever.
So what's the bottom line? What does all this mean for you and me, living in a world that is still absolutely saturated with cynicism? In this final section, let's talk about the key takeaway. How do we stay anchored against that tide?
The whole thing really hinges on this one massive shift in perspective. It's the ability to look at hardship and suffering and see it not just as a meaningless negative, but as something that could potentially be redemptive. Now, that doesn't mean we go looking for pain, not at all. It's about understanding that even the worst things can be part of a larger divine design for healing.
And choosing this path of the servant comes with a promise. It's a promise that God's plan isn't just about saving your own soul, but about restoring everything, a new heavens and a new earth. Our job, our calling, is to join in that work, to choose to be servants, not predators. And somewhere in that choice, we find out who we truly are. We find our new name.
So we end with this question. The cynical world offers one design for being human, the predator, driven by self-interest. The book of Isaiah offers a totally different one, the servant, driven by redemptive love. They are two competing blueprints. So, which design will you follow?